Welcome to Speaking Cinema Series Movie Jibber Jabber, a movie podcast coming to you live from the top of a gasoline field in Hollywood, California. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, listen, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher. I am your host, humongous Jibber Jabber. With me today, as always, just rolled up in his 1973 Ford Falcon, Kevin.
That's me, you wasteland motherfuckers.
In the future, cities will become deserts, roads will become battlefields, and the hope of mankind will appear as a stranger. This time on the Jibber Jabber, only one man can make a difference. We continue our look at the summer of '82 with the ruthless, savage wasteland of the Road Warrior.
Yes, it's gonna be fun.
Starring Mel Gibson, and really, I mean,
That's about it.
the other people in it, you know what I mean? Emil Minty? That's an awesome name, but no one else stars in this movie. It's a Mel Gibson thing.
No question.
Directed by George Miller, written by Miller, Terry Hayes, and Brian Hannon. Produced by Kennedy Miller Productions and distribution by Warner Brothers. If you're not familiar, in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, a cynical drifter helps a gasoline-rich city escape a group of bandits. It's more of a community than a city, but you know.
But again, simple, to the point plot.
Mm-hmm.
That's the summer of '82 for you.
This is the sequel of Mad Max, released in Australia as Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. However, Mad Max was not very popular in the US, had a very limited release, so the Mad Max was dropped, and it was just released as The Road Warrior in the US. Mel Gibson was also not a big star, so he was not featured prominently on the poster. So, poster for this movie just says The Road Warrior, no reference to the past, you know, no one knows it's a sequel, no one knows who Mel Gibson is. Very different world when this movie came out.
Yes, absolutely.
Shot in the Australian outback, the production was one of the biggest ever for an Australian movie. The Gastown set was the biggest set ever built in an Aussie film. Over 80 custom cars were used in its production. That's a great statistic.
Yep.
Interesting note on the climactic tanker chase sequence, it was considered so dangerous the stuntmen in the scene were required not to eat for the 12 hours before the stunt, for fear of if something went wrong, they'd have to go to emergency surgery, and having food in their digestive system would be a detriment to their very survival.
Yep. That's insane to me.
Right.
Like, you can think of them as athletes, right? They need fuel to perform, and yet these guys are doing these crazy stunts on no food for 12 hours.
It's also a mix of irresponsible and responsible behavior. We're doing something responsibly irresponsible.
Yep. They're doing the right thing in that if somebody has to be rushed to surgery, they're ready for it. But you're also doing something where somebody might have to be rushed to surgery.
This is not a red flag for maybe we shouldn't put a person in this position.
Yep.
But hey,
it worked, didn't it?
As it is recording, The Road Warrior is available on DVD, Blu-ray, available for digital purchase as well. No streaming platforms have carried it. It's been on streaming platforms such as Netflix in the past. You know, check it out.
You never know when it'll come back.
Usually I promote this website, canistream.it. Get it? But that website sucks. It's not accurate.
I've had the same issue, but I believe I've said it before, but I will say it again on this podcast. Rotten Tomatoes is a great source for figuring out something.
Really?
They have a little section in like where the rating is and stuff like that, and it says like where you can get it. You know, it's got Amazon, Apple, Netflix. It's got like the little symbols if it's available on those platforms.
I should finally a use for Rotten Tomatoes.
It's a fine website. Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Not rotten.com. Don't go there.
Ooh. Kev, you took this dark.
I'm just warning our viewers who are not of sound-minded body.
Kev, have you heard of, seen this movie, and where and when and how and why?
Sure have heard of it. Sure have seen it. Did not see it until within the last 3 or 4 years, though.
Oh, really?
I admit, I did not see it when I was growing up.
Because this was a staple of the USA Network for years and years.
But I never sat down and watched it. And I just randomly was like, I think it's when I heard Fury Road was in the works. And I was like, you know what? I just need to bone up on the Mad Max
Wow,
series.
really?
It took me that long. I hate to admit it, but it took me that long. And by God, was I a moron for waiting that long. These movies are great.
Well, you know, I did see this movie the first time on the USA Network. It was the scene where, spoilers for the movie, where the kid throws the boomerang and the guy tries to catch it and cuts off his
Yeah.
fingers. So imagine, 10-year-old me flipping channels. Okay, everyone's in leather. Bladed boomerang flies through the air, cuts off a guy's hand, or his fingers at least. And then a little mongrel-looking kid does a backflip and disappears into a hole. And Mel Gibson's here. And it was like, what the fuck is this?
That's a hell of a scene to come in on.
Yeah, it was a hell of a scene to come in on. And also, I mean, again, before IMDb, before the internet. This is before the internet, really, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
This is when the internet was like,
In its infancy.
In its infancy. So it's like, I'm like, what is this? Who is this? What's going on? Why am I, it was crazy. It blew my mind.
Yep. I mean, I wish I had that moment,
But I have not watched the movie a great many years. We were hanging out one time and we just put it on.
We put it on to kill some time.
Yeah, but I really haven't watched it all the way through. And
we didn't. We only got through. He didn't even get to Gastown.
Yeah.
Yet, so
obviously, we're both familiar with the Mad Max franchise. We both picked Fury Road as the film of 2015, a decision which I think our future selves will appreciate.
we'll know we were right.
What about this franchise sets it apart from other post-apocalyptic movies?
I think it's not as dour as so many other post-apocalyptic films.
Yeah, it's like the world ended and that was sad, but it's over with now, and now we're doing this thing.
Exactly. And like the people in the world are obviously having a hard scrabble time, but the movie's not reflecting that. The action scenes are fast, the cars are loud, the costumes are cool, the story's, it's fun in a way of like, this is exhilarating, not in like, oh my god, we're all having a good time. It's like this is a fun story.
Well, I think...
And so many post-apocalyptic movies they're like The Road. The Road's a great film, but by God is it depressing.
Right.
And it's a big slog. And these movies aren't a big slog.
And it's a poke... I mean, especially when we get to Fury Road. Like, Fury Road just feels like it's like almost like a fantasy movie where it didn't take place on our Earth, you know what I mean?
No.
But, yeah, the look and feel of the world is very much this, Frank Miller... creation. It doesn't. I mean, and this is like the fucking guideline for what the post-apocalyptic universe looks like, right? Like
Totally.
like the leather and the weird football gear and
like repurposed stuff used for completely
hockey masks and weird shit. It's very much own weird thing, but it apologizes for none of it. I think that's a big appeal for it.
Exactly.
And also the car culture of it is also very cool.
Yeah, I mean it's
supercharged muscle cars and
Fury Road alone is an orgy of just amazing car design.
Yeah, indeed.
But this one has a ton of just crazy stuff too. It's like 5-foot long tailpipes spewing fire.
Right. Rank the Mad Max films in order of greatest to worst. Go.
Fury Road, Road Warrior, Mad Max, getting a nail in your foot, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Yeah, so 2 4th, 1 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There's really no other way to look at it.
That first half of Thunderdome is like exactly what you want, and then it becomes Hook for a second half, and you just don't know what's happening. Yeah.
Speaking of that movie, are you familiar with George Miller and his work? And what do you think about him?
I am familiar with George Miller. You got Mad Max, but then you also have Babe and Babe 2, which he produced the first Babe, directed the second one. Those are really good films. If you
Are
go
they?
back and
As
watch
kids,
it.
I did not like them.
And you should go back and watch it as an adult, actually. They have a really good message, and they're really well shot. Andrew Lesney was the DP on it. He shot Lord of the Rings. Yeah, actually, he passed away last year.
Oh, did he?
Died of a heart attack. But yeah.
Why are all these DPs really old?
I mean, it takes that long to, like, master your craft, I guess.
Why do people age? I like George Miller. I did not like Happy Feet at all.
Yeah, that one was kind of...
It was just like, fuck, man. And I really do like his adult works best, his... and specifically Mad Max. I have not seen... He made one with Jack Nicholson. I haven't seen
Witches of Eastwick.
Which is supposed to be really good.
From what I've heard.
And then they made a show on Lifetime was Witches of Eastwick, and then that went away really quick.
Yeah.
I would like to see a Justice League movie.
Yeah, that concept art got released, and that was some cool shit, actually.
He was supposed to be doing it for years, working on a Justice League movie before Christopher Nolan or during Christopher Nolan doing Batman.
Before.
And then it just never went anywhere.
Yeah, I mean that concept art was awesome, especially the Wonder Woman armor.
Yeah. speaking of Mel Gibson, biggest star in the world at one point, and then revealed himself to be a bigoted, crazy person. Has he ruined his legacy with you as he has ruined it with Hollywood?
Having never been a huge Mel Gibson fan, I guess not really for me. I like some of his movies. I don't necessarily think he's always the best part of it, though. I think there's some films that he kind of drags down a little bit.
Payback,
yeah, absolutely. The Get Carter remake could have been cool. Oh, no, never mind. Sorry.
Was that with Sylvester Stallone?
That's Stallone.
Well, Stallone ruined that one. Listen, on the Jibber Jabber, we'll call you. We love to love things and we'll celebrate you, but Stallone went through a bad fucking time in his career where he was dragging everything down.
And he was no Michael Caine.
But what's your favorite Mel Gibson movie?
I mean, the first Lethal Weapon is pretty untouchable, I think. I mean, is that more Shane Black in his like really good writing? Probably, but Mel Gibson was the perfect choice.
Well, I don't think you can say that Mel Gibson's a bad actor. I don't think he's a bad actor. Even in his romantic comedies, he's a good actor. You know what I mean?
He knows what he's doing.
I mean, he's not.
And he can carry a movie. Braveheart does not work at all without Mel Gibson.
Right. You know, and is he Daniel Day-Lewis? No, but most people aren't.
Yep.
Also, are you a fan of any of his directorial work?
I remember seeing Passion of the Christ in the theater just because it was all anybody was talking about. So,
Best torture movie of all time.
I mean,
Eat Your Heart Out, Saw.
Just viciously violent. And I thought, this is... Anyways. And then Apocalypto, that movie's like a really weird trip inside Mel Gibson's brain, I think. Because it is a bizarre movie.
I respect Apocalypto because it is... How he even got it made is literally unbelievable. It's a movie about Mayans in Mayan, a dead language. It's just a subtitled U.S. movie. Like, who gave him money for this, right? But that being said, that movie and it's extremely violent.
There's the dream sequence of the person's holding a bleeding, beating heart, and there's heads lopped off, and a baby is born underwater in the climax, and you see the umbilical cord and
the climax of that movie is everything that's wrong with movies.
Exactly.
There's a chase going on. There's a woman in a well, and it's like, I guess she can't swim is her problem.
Yeah.
But it's like, you don't really need to. I just don't understand, like, if you're in a hole in the ground, a cylinder, and it fills up with water, and you don't know how to swim, if you just floated, you just rise to the top, right?
Eventually.
But they start going into labor. It's just like it's trying to up the stakes and up the stakes and up the stakes. And it's just bizarre.
Yeah, it goes full Peter Jackson and just throwing everything at the.
But not like.
But with none of the Peter Jackson finesse.
Right. Exactly. And then also in the research for the episode, have you heard of Tequila Sunrise?
Not the Eagles song? Is
No.
that a movie?
No, it's a movie with it's Mel Gibson and Kurt Russell. And it's like like an action movie maybe? I want to revisit this.
Is somebody wearing a Hawaiian shirt? Somebody better be wearing a Hawaiian shirt.
I can't promise that.
I will say I have not seen any of some of his post Fallout movies, like The Beaver was one.
Yeah, which looks funny.
I have not seen it. It looks interesting. And was Edge of Darkness, was that before or after?
I don't know.
I remember that could have been a great movie, but wasn't quite where it needed to be. And I can't even explain why it wasn't quite where it needed to be. That could have been a really good thriller, but it just kind of sat there. But I don't remember if that's pre or post Sugar Tits, Mel Gibson.
I listened to an interview with George Miller, and he was saying that, like, they were working on, like, a Mad Max movie or something. They were working on something together, and Mel really wanted to go to church, but he was mad because of Vatican II. And George Miller was like, that's weird, like, Vatican II? And I guess Mel got really upset about it, and he's like, that's weird. And then he held his racism in, because George Miller said that when he heard the tape of Mel Gibson, cursing out Jews and women when he got arrested for drunk driving, he said he cried. He's like, it was like being betrayed by it was just like finding out that your friend is like,
Exactly. I mean, if your best friend, if you saw them in some completely disparaging video, I'd be like gutted if that happened.
Exactly.
Somebody you thought you knew is doing this fucking saying these terrible things, and got caught drunk driving, one of the most irresponsible things you could do.
Especially as a rich person.
Why are all these rich people getting caught drunk driving?
I mean, it's kind of like, it's like a lot of crimes, right? It's not about it's not about the actual crime, it's about something else.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, if you get caught drunk driving, especially if you're that drunk, it's about the fact that you have an alcohol problem, right? It's not anything to do with hiring a driver. Like, you could have hired a driver, but you're too fucked up. You know what I mean?
To even, like, yeah. And it's you're that far down the throes of alcohol or drugs that you don't even consider that to be an option. So.
Right. On a happier topic before we get into this movie, best Mad Max car, or your favorite?
Oh. The Giga Horse in Morton Joe's car in Fury Road.
Like two 57
like
Chevys?
two, I think they're Buicks.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But yeah, just two cars stacked on each other, jacked to hell, huge tires on it, big flames, like just really sharp corners and edges, and it works like in the real world. It's a functioning car. That thing is so fucking cool.
Great choice. The obvious choice is the Interceptor.
The Interceptor is classic.
It's a classic. That's not even on the table, really. Yeah. I mean, that's obviously a classic.
Yeah, this list should be anything
yeah.
besides the Interceptor.
And it will be. Mine is the War Rig from Fury Road.
Yeah.
Backseat, full Hot Wives, powered by 2 supercharged engines, and carrying 9,000 gallons of gas. Come on.
And a human femur as the gear shift.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
badass.
you know, a million little Volkswagen Bug on the back.
Yep.
It's just amazing.
And it's the way they can cull all kinds of different parts from all kinds of different cars and make it look like it all is meant to fit together. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, whatever shop or mechanic they're using on all of these movies, is genius work.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely amazing.
All right, so let's get into this movie. Watch the prequel to our favorite movie in 2015, Mad Max 2.
Let me go grab my assless chaps and we'll go do it
All right, right now. Here we go. And we're back.
We're back.
Kev, how'd you watch it?
My Blu-ray copy at my house, like Wednesday or Thursday of this week.
Watched it on Blu-ray as well. Got it from the library.
You're just a walking commercial for the library.
The library, it's a good resource for free shit.
Do it.
Everyone loves free shit. Don't love the library. You're all hypocrites.
You're all wrong.
Girl, you ain't right. So, Kev, general thoughts.
So, I approached this movie. I've seen it a few times. Of course, like it for the action, like it for Mad Max. But this time I wanted to watch it and said, is there anything else I can glean from it?
Uh-huh.
And I think I came across an interesting understanding of this story.
Uh-huh.
I think this movie is really about a loss of innocence.
Okay.
And I think it all ties to that music box that he finds. And I noticed they really hold on that scene where he's playing the music box. It's just a little hand crank music box and it plays Happy Birthday. And he kind of has a little wry smile when he does it. And then we're kind of right back into the action. You get the sense that was the first time he smiled in like a week in this world. And then there's another scene that I feel like kind of confirmed it, is when he goes back to the big rig to steal it, to bring it back so that they can haul the tanker. And there's a dead body there, and he's kind of rooting through it. And he pulls out a dice. And like, that to me gives me an idea that everybody in this world is holding on to something from their past. Mm-hmm. And like something innocent from their past. A music box. He finds the music box in another dead body.
Right.
A dice, something to play with. And like, he gives it to the kid who is still, there's a scene where he's playing the music box and the feral kid is like fascinated by it, thinks it's amazing, and he gives it to the kid. And to me, that's like him passing on, don't do what we did. Like, we destroyed the world. The vermin inherited the earth as it is spray painted on that truck.
Yeah.
And he's like, kind of, in a way, he's telling him, keep that close to him. Keep that innocence. And that had a much more profound effect on me watching this movie again. It gave it just a new layer of appreciation for me. Something I just never really saw before. Mm-hmm. So, this was quite a viewing experience, in my opinion.
I also had quite the viewing experience. And I'll comment on your thing in a minute, but my general thought is that this movie is a masterpiece.
Yes.
Like, Citizen Kane level good filmmaking. And I'm like, Did I just realize that and everyone else knew it, or does the whole world not know this?
I think the whole world just thinks, oh, that's a cool action movie.
Right.
It's a Mad Max
Which
movie. It's the
is.
best one until Fury Road came out. But people just see it as like, it's a cool 80s action movie.
Right.
And I think there's just a lot more to it than that. That I, again, didn't really see until, this is probably my 5th or 6th viewing of Road Warrior.
Right.
And I'm just kind of now realizing certain things George Miller is doing. It's with that music box, and it's, his cutting and his editing and the music choices in it are just all really thought out and really strong.
I just think that, like, all of that is completely true. The music doesn't swell. No one talks. It's only action and inaction that speaks. And, like, it's an amazing movie. It's just fucking fantastic. You know what I mean?
And we, a couple weeks ago, we just talked Conan the Barbarian.
Right, and it reminds me a lot of Conan the Barbarian.
Max only has 16 lines in this whole movie.
And 2 of them are, I'm only here for the gasoline.
I'm only here for the gasoline. That's amazing. But he's clearly our main character.
Right.
But yeah, we don't need him just talking to us the whole time.
And again, we'll come back to what you said, so don't let me forget that. But I think a lot of people who say, there's lots of, when I was looking at, like, this movie's great. Does everyone else think that? Some people who are like it's great because there's no CG, right? And I'm like, that's not why it's great.
No.
It's great because effects are no, right? And special effects, CGI, and there's great mythology and great storytelling, right? And because on a literal sense, right? Max is a scavenger, right? Which fits the character, which fits what you said. It's about, and he's holding on. What is he holding on to? You know what I mean? Maybe he's a guy who doesn't have anything to hold on to, so he finds a music box and he gives it to the kid, so the kid could have something to hold on to.
Yep.
Right? And maybe that's his growth, is like actually doing something to help someone, because he's the man in black, right? He's
He's just the drifter. He's only helping the gas town because he wants gas so that he can keep going.
Right.
It's for no other reason. He keeps telling himself that it's for no other reason except his selfish, what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just a means for him to get more gas so he can drive his car further into the wasteland.
Right. Which makes no sense on a literal level, right? Because a car needs a functioning international economy to work, right? Tires only last 70,000 miles. How is he doing oil changes? There's a level of maintenance on a car that requires a functioning society. But that doesn't fucking matter at all, because it's not about that. It's not about how does Gastown literally pumping out the oil? How are they dealing with the issues that oil companies deal with, right? Where O-rings wear out, and you need fucking this thing and that thing. You need a place to store all the gas, and how are you refining it, and what's powering your refinery? None of that. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? That's not what the movie's about. I think it is about what you're talking about, where it's a guy figuring out he wants to go further into the wasteland, and it's about him maybe not going further into the wasteland, right? Maybe he's lost everything. We know from the previous movies he's lost his wife and his kid and, his humanity, basically. And maybe this is about him doing the right thing, which is and we're jumping all around, but when we get to that point in the movie where he crashes his car and he comes back and he's like, I need to drive the tank. They don't make it clear if he's doing it to do the right thing because he learned a lesson, or if he's doing it for revenge. It's not really clear either way.
Yeah, no, it isn't at all.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to save this for the end, but I have to just ask because I need to know. When he rolls the rig at the end, do you think that he knows that it's full of sand?
I don't think he does.
You think they tricked him?
I think so. Why else would he do it? If he knew,
There's two. The way he looks at it very longingly. This is why this is a fucking masterpiece. Because he looks at when he rolls it, he looks at it longingly, and he puts his hand underneath the nozzle while his hand's coming out, and it goes in his hand. And you can interpret that 2 ways, and it fits the certain thing. One, he wants revenge. So this was revenge, so he was the distraction, so that he can try to kill as many of the bad guys as possible and, get away with it or whatever, right? And they destroyed his dog, they destroyed his car, he needs to get his revenge. And then there's also him doing the right thing, right? I need to help these people survive because they are good people and these people are bad people, or these people are predators and they are, uncivilized and they are barbarians and we are all better than that, And I don't know. You can see it both ways. You could also argue that the Gastown people wouldn't send their people to die in vain, and the leader comes in his like double-engined car, and he's like, "Jump on!" It's like maybe the strategy was that they're all gonna jump on that car eventually and get out of there.
Yeah, they just bolt out, and then the bandits steal the tanker, and then eventually find out it's full.
Right.
That's a good point. I didn't think of it that way.
And I mean, because the way he looked at the sand, he looks kind of confused, but it's like maybe he's not confused. Maybe he's just.
Yeah, I think to me that was like the first time him seeing that it was sand. I guess that's how I interpret it. But you totally could see it that way of like him realizing everything he did is what helped save these people, and he got his revenge, and now he's just, the last shot of the movie is just him like drawing off in the distance. And it's like that's how he'll always be remembered by those people,
right?
The person who saved their life,
right? And he has the leader's double engine car thingy,
yeah. And
so it's like he just took that and that was his payment or whatever.
There's a lot of layers to this. It's not just black and white action movie.
It's not. Start at the beginning, right? So playing into the mythological element of this, it starts in the middle of a car chase, right? Max is running away, or he's being pursued by a Mohawk, whose name is like Lux?
Wes?
Wes, yeah.
Wes.
Wes and some of the other barbarian dudes, Humongous' people. In that chase scene, is there people from Gastown or no?
I don't think so.
No, right? Yeah, he's just being chased. And it's a very peculiar way to start a movie where there's no frame of reference for this, right? Like, he's just being chased.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All we get is that prologue of like, the world leaders talked and the world fell apart.
Yeah.
Which apparently was not in the Australian release, which I think is interesting.
Well, I think in the Australian release they had Mad Max 1, so they just understood what had happened.
True.
Whereas in America it was like, this is...
It's marketed as the Road Warrior, not
right.
Mad Max 2. And then, yeah, it just throws us straight into this world of just metal and steel and people in mohawks and assless chaps.
And sports equipment.
Just chasing each other. So.
Well, I remember as a kid, the look of the Wasteland was always very weird to me when I watched the movie on USA. I was always like, why are they wearing, like, football gear? Like, it's kind of weird. Also, and this is, like, fucking real strange, but now that I'm almost 30 years old, I finally get that the Road Warriors from wrestling in the early 2000s, or the early 90s rather, are directly ripping off the aesthetic of Mad Max.
There you go. Yes, they are.
And how did that fucking possibly take me this long to figure that out? They have the same name, the Road Warrior, the Road Warriors. It's embarrassing. But anyways,
I'm glad you shared that moment with us.
I remember just as a kid thinking like the look of the movie is just very bizarre. These people wearing like this weird like plastic armor, but it's that reused. It's like it's like a DIY barbarian look, right? They're reusing everything, right? They found shoulder pads, so now they're wearing shoulder pads. It's like
it's all they have.
Yeah, it's all that's left. And I think it's like there is a level of like sexual fetish iconography with it, which I don't know if it's supposed to be that or if it's just supposed to be the idea that these guys are just barbarians, so they're just like they're wild. That's why they have assless chaps and chains and hooks and
it's just they're the crazy one.
Mm-hmm. There's just an abundance of great filmmaking in this movie, which just blew me away watching it again. There's a lot just like Conan. There's a lot hidden in the edits, right? It's a lower budget. It feels like a huge budget because there's like these vast wastelands and all these cars and stuff, but there's a lot hidden and there's a lot of things that are not shown all the way through. Like, I think a good example is when he first meets the helicopter pilot in the dog attack. The helicopter pilot gets attacked by a dog. The pilot turns into the car. They've disabled the bomb.
Yeah.
He turns to the car.
It's just set up for later when the bomb goes off.
Right. There's a zoom that comes in from inside the car. You see the dog in mid-flight. You see the dog and the dude falling backwards and hitting the ground. And they're all different edits. And there's other times you've seen stuff like that, like, like in Power Rangers is like, I think one of the best examples of this, right? Where you see a guy run, and then he jumps, and you cut to an undershot of someone like doing a front flip, and then you cut to them having landed and someone else having, and it doesn't work there.
No.
It doesn't seem believable. Like it's like, oh, of course, that was all just cut up. And I think it's the duration of the edits, it's the footage that they've shot, it's how they've shot it. It's just like I'm watching this with like a with my magnifying glass, right, trying to see all the secrets, and I'm seeing like, oh, like that was seamless, but it was full of seams.
Exactly, but. I did a little extracurricular work on this one.
Uh-huh.
On the El Rey Network, they have a show called The Director's Chair.
Oh.
Had an episode with George Miller.
Did you get the El Rey Network?
I do get it.
Oh, my God.
You want to come over and watch Shaolin 36 Chambers sometime?
Yeah, I do. We could just go over and turn it on, whatever's on. We'll just watch.
Sam Raimi's Saturdays, they do.
Amazing.
But anyways, Robert Rodriguez, talking to George Miller, he said the exact same thing, but just about the first Mad Max. He was like, when he was a budding young filmmaker, and like with a magnifying glass, like how did he create such chaos with so few cuts and camera angles, and it really does take a whole lot of skill, especially going that fast, especially if you're working with a dog.
Right.
It's like you have to pick just the right angle to make this thing work. And it's hard work, and it takes a really smart mind to pull it off. Because like you said, or it looks like Power Rangers.
Right, it looks like just Bobo nothing.
Yep.
We never see the helicopter take off or land, like, in one shot. You see, like, the wheels, you see the wheels hit the ground, and you'll see the wheels take up off the ground, but you never see it, like, all the way. And you think they had a functioning gyrocopter. You think they could have just done it? They didn't do it.
To get those kind of reaction shots that gyrocopter guy is doing... you can't mount a camera to a gyrocopter.
Yeah, it's too light.
The copter is too light. The camera probably weighs more than that copter does, and you have to fill it in just to make it work. And they find he's probably 2 feet off the ground when they're filming some of his reaction shots, but it doesn't.
Oh, for sure.
It doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
It just the way they cut it together, all the cuts are purposeful. And you hide a lot in the edits, so it never feels like he's only 2 feet off the ground. Just smart filmmaking.
And then the introduction to Humongous, right? Not the time that we're on the ground level when we meet him. The first time we see him, Max is on the mountain with the helicopter pilot, who is his prisoner, and there's a whole swath of the first act that takes place from on top of this mountain, where he's looking down and he sees all of the bikes circling Gastown, and he cuts over to Humongous, and Humongous is on his megaphone,
his
PA.
PA.
Yeah, his PA system. And then you see that the Mohawk Wes dude comes up, and you say, okay, so Wes is associated with Humongous. So we know that this is bad. This is a bad scenario right here, right? And then later in the movie, then we experience the same thing from the Gastown perspective, right? Yep. Where the Ayatollah of rock and roller, and that is such a masterful way of like this. You see something and you're like, what's even happening right now? And then later in the movie, you see it again from that perspective of experiencing it, and it's like, oh, like this is what this dude's been telling these people for presumably weeks or months.
Yep, just rolling up every day and going. This is mine. Give it up.
Yeah, give it up. There's no one coming to help you. There's nowhere you can go. I'll let you live if you just give me all your stuff.
Yep. I mean, it's, a villain ruling with intimidation and fear. It's like, that's all it is. And it's so simple, but so effective. Yeah, he's just a bully. We don't know if he's actually ever going to kill these people, but yeah, he's just an asshole bully.
Don't you think that he would, though?
He definitely would. And they eventually show it by attempting to kill them when they drive away with the tanker. But yeah, it's like...
Well, he also kills them when they drive away on the scouting missions.
Yeah. So he definitely has the capability, but yeah, just to harass these people every day. It's like, either take it over or leave us alone, dude.
Also those poor dudes who are on the front of there's a car that has like 2 guys on the front.
Yeah.
And they spend the whole movie, presumably days, on the front of that thing.
Yep.
And then on the tanker chase, in the climactic tanker chase, they get the bags ripped off their heads right at the last second just to see themselves get smushed into the front of the tanker. Grisly.
It's a shitty world to live in.
Speaking of the world, it's shot in the middle of nowhere, and it feels huge, right? It feels like there's nothing. You know, they're like, we want to get somewhere 2,000 miles away, and you feel like, yeah, the closest thing to here is probably 2,000 miles away. You know, there's nothing around here, and there's I don't know, there's like this the perspective that you get from the top of that mountain. It makes the movie feel just gigantic.
Yep. Just the endless Australian outback, just going off into the horizon. Yeah, it's just there's nothing. There might be another gas town, but yeah, it's nowhere near this one. Mm-hmm. And you can't just go to the supermarket or go visit anybody else. It's like everything is just few and far between.
For sure.
And everything in between is dudes and assless chaps who are going to rape and shoot you, you know.
Right, you know.
That's it.
And it's like, you know, this movie, it's like a $4.5 million movie in, you know, $1982, right? But it feels like $100 million movie. You know, it feels huge.
I mean, all those cars are functioning, and they have like a legion of them. That tanker's huge. The movie has a scope that's gigantic. You know, I think it was Danny Boyle who said that's the biggest trick of a great director is to make a limited budget look like infinitely more than it was. You know, that's the real skill. And George Miller is probably the king of that.
Yeah, it's like, because, exactly. You know what I mean?
He doesn't need like $100 million. Although when you give him $100 million,
he puts it up on the screen.
He makes Fury Road.
Yeah.
So.
Again, it's just like Conan, where it's like there's small things that you can, if you can get them, it's like things that you maybe not could. Maybe there's no mountain there, you couldn't get that shot necessarily, right? But because there's a mountain there, you put the camera on top of the mountain and then you show 80 cars drive away. You're like, this is the biggest movie ever. You know what I mean? And there's something about that I think is just like so smart to recognize that, you know, like, and we don't see any shots from the ground to the mountain. We see the shots from the mountain to the ground. You know what I mean? Like, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, picking just the right angles to tell the story. It should always, in those scenes, it's from Max's perspective. In later scenes, you know, we're seeing it from Gastown's perspective. And it's using your budget wisely, but also telling the story the way it needs to be told. So you don't have a ton of, like, camera on the car shots and, like, showing the cars rolling up and, you know, all kinds of shit like that. It's like you don't need it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't... There are a couple of shots of, like, you know, the camera mounted on the, you know, on the car, especially with Mel.
Yeah.
But you would think that there'd be many more to show off all of the other barbarian people, you know? Yeah. But they restrain that. And you can see that backfiring where it's like, well, you had all these fucking dudes, I want to see what they all look like, but they don't need it, you know? It ends up not being necessary.
Yeah, I mean, they all have a similar aesthetic. Do we need to get a close-up shot of every single individual one? Absolutely not.
Also, did you notice that a lot of them have an eye patch or an eye patch-like look?
They do. Yeah, they have a lot of obscured eyeballs.
Yeah, like the dude who is introduced in the Ayatollah Rock and Roll, he has one sunglass lens and one clear one.
Yeah.
And then there's like a bunch of women who have one eye. I was like, I wonder what the point of that is.
I wonder if that's some kind of humongous, like, loyalty or torture thing. If you fuck up, you lose an eye.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
It could be.
Could be, right? Humongous, especially, there's another one of these scenes that's really great, is when Humongous invites everyone to walk away, and then the gas town people start having a debate. Words! They're just words! I'll go out there with this Humongous, and I'll negotiate, you know, like, and so you see, like, you got the leader guy, you got the woman who's completely lost faith, and you have this other, like, fake army guy who, like, thinks that he's General Patton or something, you know? And you hear everyone's argument, like, and then they keep talking, and it cuts back to Max, and it's all muted. They're all kind of muted. Like, you hear that they're still talking, but you can't hear what they're saying. And Miller only gives you exactly what you need to know about their points, right? The leader guy is like, if we give up the gasoline, we have nothing. Even if he lets us live, we'll just die. And P.S., he's not going to let us live. The woman is like, you know, we've already lost, and we're just dragging this out and getting ourselves killed. And the other guy's like, I'll go out there and I'll talk to him, and maybe we can get a negotiation going. And there's no other details that you need. And he doesn't let you have them. And I feel like that is such a bold choice.
And it immediately establishes the hierarchy in Gastown.
Right.
Who everybody is.
Yeah.
Like,
you have the leader, you have the person who might usurp him and the lady, and then you have the other guy who's just clueless.
Yep. And it shows that Gastown's kind of directionless. They have good intentions, but they don't really know what they're doing.
And they can't handle this.
And they, yeah.
And all of that is conveyed not by anyone saying anything that relates to what we're talking about. They're just giving their opinions.
That's it.
It's magic, dude. It's like, if, you know, I don't know. If you didn't, it's like, how does he do it? How does it always work? You know what I mean?
It's tough. He's got that magic touch. It's, you know, I think it all starts with good writing, and that's the only way you can make a movie on that budget look this huge. It's that you have to take the time in pre-production and the writing to get it absolutely correct, and then you go do it, and then you find the other things in it. But that's your foundation, and I think that's what he does on everything he works with.
So I think we're moving towards the crescendo of this podcast, which is going to be the tanker chase. All 13 glorious minutes.
13-minute chase, and it is beautiful.
What's interesting in the research I did on this for this, what's interesting is that there's really bad consistency in the shots. Sometimes there's clouds, it'll be super cloudy, and then it'll be super clear, shot to shot, right? Like angle, reverse angle. It's like there'll be a master shot, super cloudy, cut to a close up of warrior girl, you know, on top. Clear as a day. She falls off the thing, back to cloudy, right? There's bad continuity in the background. It oscillates between flat and being really mountainous. And there's bad continuity between the bad guys. It starts off with 30 of them, then it goes down. 6 get taken out, but in the end, we're left with 10. It's like that math doesn't add up.
Yeah.
But none of that fucking matters.
It doesn't matter.
Because it is sublime.
It's just like, you know, Scorsese movies have tons of continuity errors, but you don't notice them because you're sucked into the story.
Well, and that's the thing is that
into the action.
You like when movies are good, there's like a level of technical errors that are not there in your mind. But it's like, is it that the technical errors are not there, or that none of that shit fucking matters at this point? Because you're like, oh no, the steering wheel, they're fighting over it. Like, you know, Wes is on the front of the car. Like, the shotgun didn't fire, you know, like...
He grabs the shells fall on the roof.
Yeah.
This guy crashes his car in a rock, flips 4 times, is dead.
Yeah, exactly.
You just get swept up in that part of it.
It's just the most elegant movie making, and I want to talk again about, just like the Conan episode, I want these 2 movies in my mind are the perfect double feature. You go Mad Max and then Conan.
Yeah.
You gotta end on a high note.
Yeah.
But the Allies die very quickly. Like, and when I say quickly, what I mean is they last the whole movie, but when the death starts to come, they're just dead.
Exactly. There's no prolonged like sadness. Somebody dies in their arms. It's like they just die.
They're gone.
That's the world we live in.
Right. Exactly. You know what I mean? There's a lack of. It's interesting because I feel like Fury Road is a lot more darker of a movie, but when people die, it is a little bit more sentimental.
Yeah.
And in this, it's like, you know, warrior woman gets hit with the fucking darts. She falls over. She gets stuck on the side of the thing. The guy with no legs is trying to help her up. They both get sucked off the side of the rig, and they're dead. And that's it. And we never come back to it. You know what I mean?
Yep. It's just fast and brutal, and there's no time for it in that chase. It's like this chase is all or nothing, and it's if somebody dies, and that's just how it has to go, unfortunately. But that's the truth.
And again, like Conan, the music is pretty consistent throughout the piece. It doesn't crescendo like, you know, when there's a guy on the back of the rig and his little platform he's standing on gets yanked out and he gets just dropped and people just run him over. The music doesn't crescendo right there. Where there's a motorcycle guy who has a bow and arrow on his arm, and he's gonna poke the tire with the bow and arrow, but it sucks him under, and his bike gets. There's no victory. Like, yes, the music is just the music, and so whatever you feel is like, I don't know if that's a thing that only affects me, or if that is actually like good filmmaking. Is you gotta let the audience figure it out.
But then there's really smart points where the music just cuts out completely, and all we get is just smashing and engines revving and
a guy tumbling end over end.
Yep. And Robert Rodriguez on that episode, he's like, don't ever listen to the Road Warrior score in your car because you'll want to drive like 200 miles an hour. I did it once. It was a bad idea, so don't ever do that.
Do they talk about that movie, like that whole episode, or?
No, they do George Miller's whole... I actually haven't finished the episode yet, but they talk about, you know, Witches of Eastwick, Babe 2. They go through his whole.
How long is it?
It's I think an hour. Might be an hour.
Oh
and a half.
man, I'm like 3 hours. Come on, let's just break it all down.
Yep. But yeah, it's they spend a good amount of time on Road Warrior, and yeah, it's all the same things. Yeah, the music done by Brian May of Queen. It's all it does. It's there just to keep that motion going, But it also doesn't need it to carry it. It's drops it out, gets you in the right mindset, and then you can drop it out so that the clashing of metal is the music now. But then if another moment comes, then we can kick in a little music again. Like somebody, what's his name, Wes gets in the car. Okay, now we're fucked. So now we gotta get some other music going, and it's all just balanced in like the perfect souffle of just metal and noise and mohawks and awesomeness.
Which builds up to the twist that we just talked about, right? Where Max crashes the thing. We're like, oh no, we've lost. And as the audience, you're like, we just lost. It's over. Twist, genius, it's full of sand. This is all diversion. And everything that they've told us about these people makes us think, like, oh yeah, obviously, they only ever wanted the gas. And they thought the gas was in the tanker.
Yep.
And so and in the beginning, there's like, when the tanker comes out and all of the other cars of Gastown go out, 2 or 3 people go after the cars of Gastown. Everyone else goes after the tanker because they want the gas.
Yep.
And it's like, of course this would have worked as a diversion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they don't, because they're so amoral and they so don't care. It's them, the people of Gastown were just in the way.
Right.
And that's the only thing they're ever going to treat them. And now they're not in the way, so they're going to chase the tanker.
Mm-hmm. And that had been, not that the twist of them faking them out was foreshadowed, but the idea that this would have worked is present in the movie, because we know that that's what they would have done. That's what always be their priority, because that's their true goal is the gas.
And they use their own hate and aggression against them.
Exactly.
And got them to go on this glorious 13-minute goose chase.
The ending of that chase is as good as the whole chase.
I would say my favorite part is when he blasts right into Humongous's car, though.
And
that thing crumbles and explodes so satisfyingly, and like the sound of it, and oh my god, it's good.
And it's a good way they do it, where they slow down Humongous, and so then he wants to catch back up, so he's using his nitrous, so he's presumably just fucking flying
very fast.
And Max, he's running out of options, so he turns the rig around, and because he's kind of forced to. And so then they're going back opposite direction, and just
just like going over that hill, and then boom, and it's just, you just can't help but go, good, that's so good.
Does anything in this movie not work for you?
Honestly, no. There's just no weak moment in this movie. I will say there's one guy that stands out. It's pink Cadillac dude with a pink beard. This dude.
I didn't see him. I saw the pink Cadillac.
Well, there's a really quick shot. It's literally like a few frames. But the guy driving that car sticks his head out of the car, and he has like blue eyes, a pink helmet, and a dyed pink beard. And then they just set him on fire. So yeah, it's just weird that there's this guy and everybody else is in the chaps, the mohawks, the reds and blood colors and iron and steel. And yeah, there's this dude in his Pepto-Bismol Cadillac and his pink beard. They just torture him. It's an odd character, and he stands out a little bit.
Definitely odd. There's one moment where Wes smashes, when Max gets his gas and he takes off and he thinks he can outrun them. They run him down, and they smash his windshield with a pipe, and then he rolls the car. It's like, he just hit your car he just hit your windshield, and you just fucking lost control of yourself, and what?
Come on, Max.
Also, crashing a 70s muscle car, which had no safety standards at the time, you'd be dead. You'd be so dead. Yeah, that dog would be dead. You'd be dead. The dog is fine. Like, no, you'd all be dead.
Yeah, the dog. Oh, it's got a little blood on its ear, but we don't even know if it's that's its blood.
They kill the dog in this movie.
They kill it anyways. So,
any nitpicks on this movie?
Not really. It's just, it's lean. It's mean. It's great. I have no real small nitpicks at all.
I got 2 small nitpicks.
All right.
One, in the opening chase, he turns off, his fuel is low, so he turns off the supercharger. But wouldn't the supercharger get him better fuel economy? That's my question.
Good question.
And also, he's eating dog food. That's just dumb.
It's a wasteland. It's like all you got to eat.
It's such an 80s joke. Like, oh, guys, it's a wasteland. We got to eat dog food.
I mean, that was probably
Nitpick.
one of the few things in cans, though.
Nitpick.
I had no problem with him eating dog. I like that he eats dog food like it's just regular food. Like, it's not the first time he's had to eat dog food.
No, that's
just like his diet.
Yeah.
He's not like, he doesn't open the can and go, ugh, and then eat it. He's just like, open it, digs his fork in, starts eating it.
Awesome moments in this movie. There's a jump scare at the beginning when he opens the tanker and the corpse falls out.
Yep.
Total jump scare. All you jump scare haters, fuck you. The guard snake, what a great concept. And also the helicopter pilot is like hiding in the dirt like a ninja.
Yep. That's just, he's had people sneak up on him before.
Apparently.
Also, gyroscopter has titties on it.
Yes.
Great.
Speaking of the sped up shots, as a kid I didn't know what to make of them, but now as an adult it's like a sped up shot is so, like a slow mo shot is intrinsically cool, right? To see the motion of something slowed down just looks better.
Yeah.
Intrinsically. To speed something up, you got to know what you're doing, because you know who's done sped up shots well in the whole entirety of filmmaking? Fucking Benny Hill.
Yep.
The Three Stooges, and George Miller. 3 people. You know who's done good slow-mo? A lot of people. And a lot more people to come. But you know who's going to do better fast stuff in the future? I don't know. I don't know that guy.
It's very
It ain't going to be me.
Because there's a really fine line where it can make it more intense, but it can easily make it look more silly. And it's because, yeah, you got people running and they look like a Benny Hill bit. Or it's, it's just moving so comically fast that you just lose it.
I was on a set one time and we had a slow-mo camera, and the guy's like, yeah, we can do slow-mo shots. And it was like, oh, cool, like how slow? It's like, up to 1,000 frames a second. It's like, oh, cool. It's like, oh, we also do sped up shots. Cut to everyone else.
Why?
All right. I can do that, huh? Cool.
Yeah. It's like, can we do slow-mo shots?
Yeah, but we're not gonna do that though, right? We can just stop talking about this, yeah? So, confident shit. Also, great world building, like humongous in his gun box has like a photo,
Yeah,
and a Nazi skull.
And where'd he get that?
Yeah, Is that him? Is that someone he used to know?
Because I did a little research. The Nazis never did go to Australia during World War II, so how did a Nazi pistol ever come down his way?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Maybe like his ancestor was a Nazi and just happened to have that. It opens up just enough of a can of worms to make it interesting.
Indeed.
But not make it this huge central thing in the story. But yeah, the war never did get to Australia, but Australians did fight in World War II.
So going back to your innocence thing, how does the reveal that the feral kid is the narrator affect the story or the theme?
Because, Max he's the myth. He's the one that saved his life, and, gave him some joy when there was none to be had.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the ultimate goal of, like, preserving your innocence, preserving, not your childhood necessarily, but remembering what's good in the world. And to that kid, Max was nothing but a hero. We know Max is flawed. We know that he wasn't always that way. But to that kid he was, and that's who he's probably going to emulate his whole life. And that's why that's such a more important reveal now, if you understand that.
Do you think Max likes his hard scrabble life? Do you as the audience want him to find peace?
I think just because I like him, I want him to be happy. But I don't get the sense that he enjoys what he does.
Mm-hmm.
He's just really
existing.
He looks burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
His wife and kid were killed. He runs his whole life. It's just, he doesn't look like he's enjoying it. And that's why that music box scene, I think, is so profound. Because I just feel like that's the first time he smiled in so long.
Right.
Like, there's nothing to smile about in this world. A bandit could come up and rape you in the desert anytime he wanted to. And that was like the one moment he's had that he kind of just forgot about it for a second. So I don't think he enjoys his life. No.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I mean,
because there's people who are always like, when Fury Road came out, and then people started saying, "Oh, well, Charlize Theron's kind of the main character." There's all these people who are like, nah, Mad Max doesn't do what people tell him to do. Mad Max is a man. And like, that's literally never happened in any Mad Max movie.
Yeah.
He's always kind of just drifting, and then when he finds an opportunity, he just kind of takes it.
Right.
You know? But
or gets caught up in it.
Or gets caught up in some conflict that he had no intention of getting caught up in. You know, he gets captured, he gets beaten up, he gets mangled, but he keeps going. And yeah, this idea that Mad Max is like kind of like Conan the Barbarian, I think is not true.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he seems to be a damaged person. I don't think he knows why he's doing it. I think he's just kind of like living.
I mean, that's what a lot of people who are burnt out do. It's
right.
Like you know what caused it, but you have no idea how to solve it or what's going to fix it, and you just kind of walk in your burnt out state, you know,
right.
Or people are burnt out or depressed. It's like you just stay. That's just your norm. That's just what you do.
Right. And in terms of him finding peace, like, I don't know if finding peace is the right thing. Maybe finding something, but I don't. It seems like the logical ending would be his death is the end of this.
Yep. I mean, that's what he's going towards. But maybe this is the first step in him realizing he could be so much more.
Right. Well, but then you look at like. I haven't seen. I don't think I ever saw 3 in retrospect.
The first half
I've seen
is cool.
I've seen parts of it. It's been such a long time.
The first half is just pure like fun action, and then it gets like really weird towards the end. So it's 3 doesn't quite work.
But do you think it's the same? Do you think it's the same Max in Fury Road that it is in this one?
Yeah, I think so.
But then how do you explain the car? How does he get his car back?
That wasn't the only 74 Interceptor.
In this movie, they comment that there's none of these are left.
You found another one.
I don't know. It's weird.
I would question maybe where the timeline takes place.
So you think
does
he goes
Fury Road maybe go before Road Warrior?
How does
but
Beyond Thunderdome end? Does he end happy or does he become the Drifter?
I can honestly, I couldn't tell you. I don't remember how Thunderdome ends.
Fair enough. Do you like the feral kid?
Yeah, I think he's an interesting character. He's kind of, again, to go to my theme of the innocence lost, he's the one thing that Max thinks he can save or hold on to. He's the future, because he's like the only kid we see in the movie. So he's the one who's going to inherit this world. And what can he do with it, you know? So I think it's an interesting character. How do you get a cool metal boomerang? I don't know. I don't care. It's a cool metal boomerang. Chops fingers off.
As a kid, I remember not liking the feral kid and just thinking like this is like too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do think it fits into the universe that they've created, where it's like, yeah, it's a feral kid. Like, you know, it's like this society can't even take care of their kids anymore. It's like he's just wandering around. But then, and in the end, it's like so hopeful because he becomes the leader of the group. It's like kid's like what, like 3 or 4 years old, can't even speak.
Yep.
And now then later he becomes the
He's
leader.
very articulate and becomes the leader of their gang and
So
always remembers Max.
Right. So it's kind of a hopeful message in the movie that is hopeful in the way that the movie can give you. You know what I mean? A lot of legendary stunts in this movie. Glory seeking or totally irresponsible?
I think one of their most legendary ones that was a complete accident is the guy flipping like 4 times through the air.
Yeah, because he clips
the car. He was supposed to just clear the car and land, but his foot clips it and he flips 4 times. Guess what? They got his permission to put that shot in the movie, and it's in the movie. So I wouldn't say they're being totally irresponsible in that regard.
Well, it did seem like, I mean, it seems like they're irresponsible in the sense that they do all their stunts like full speed, but it's not irresponsible in the sense that it seems like George Miller is a guy who is very concerned with safety.
Yeah.
And when it came to Fury Road, he was like, you know, when they flipped the tanker at the end, he's like, we're going to do it CG, and then CG wasn't going to work, so we were going to do it a miniature, but then the miniature didn't work, and then we were going to do it remote control, but then that didn't work, so we had to have a guy do it. So he is a guy who he seems like he wants to get something crazy, but he wants to get it in the safest way possible.
Yeah. That's the fine line.
Right.
It's something I've always wrestled with. It's like, is it worth going balls to the wall and getting something great, or do you just protect everybody as much as possible and get something good? Mm-hmm. It's a really hard line to follow. And you can, as George Miller has shown, do something crazy and keep it safe. Nobody dies and keeps it great. And he had a very personal experience with that, as he talks about on Director's Chair, because he was part of Twilight Zone movie.
Yeah.
And people did die on that set. Not his set, but on the other one, the one with the helicopter. And he's like, that's like a very important thing to me. It's like, I couldn't like shake that after that happened. So he's not going to just let people die on his set just to get a shot.
Right.
He knows, he's like, we're making movies.
Yeah. William Friedkin was on the Mark Maron podcast recently. Did you hear that?
I haven't heard.
You should listen.
I've read a lot of. If I know where you're going with this, Friedkin's kind of the opposite of George Miller. He will go that far.
Well, in this interview, he's like, I used to go that far, but he's like, I regret all of that now. Like in the French Connection, he's like, we just got the police car, turned on the siren, and I just drove as fast as I could through the streets. And he's like, looking back on it, like that was a bad thing to do. Like that's not the right way to be, and I would never encourage anyone to do that, because if someone, nothing bad happened, and I kind of justified my actions off of nothing bad of the ends justifying the means, you know what I mean? But it's like, if someone got killed, which they easily could have gotten killed, like, that would have been on me,
exactly. And it would not be worth it.
Right.
At all.
So I guess, listen, we all, stuntmen like doing stunts, and we all like seeing them do stunts, and as long as everyone's trying to be honestly as responsible as they can be, there's not a problem with it. And it's fucked up that people could die and will die, like that does happen. It's one of these like weird, like, it's like a weird like libertarian kind of a thing, right? It's like it has to be a perfect construct of that, right? Someone who's willing to take a risk, someone who's willing to move heaven and earth to make the risk as minimal as possible, and so if something goes wrong...
If everybody's going to be the risk taker, then we're all toast.
Right. And if something goes wrong, then we have to be able to honestly look in the mirror and say, we took every precaution that we could have, and it just didn't work out. You know what I mean? Because I don't like the idea of anyone dying for a movie. That's not right,
Yeah, just for my entertainment, it's wrong. The flip side is, you don't want to compromise anything either. But, you do want the great stunt. You do want it cool. But, nobody deserves to die over it.
Right.
So how do you toe that fine line?
Right.
I guess you ask George Miller, because he knows how to do it. So.
Like, on Rob Zombie's Halloween, there's, like, the scene where Laurie jumps out out of a window, and the stunt lady, missed the landing completely and just, landed on the cement, and it's like... That sucks. That does. Yep. And you're, like, what could you have done differently? Like
a whole lot of things. But even on like big productions, there's a stunt driver on The Dark Knight who was killed during a test run of like the Batmobile or the Batcycle. And that was just for a test. That wasn't even for, nobody was even filming that, and he died. It's like, what's the cost at that point?
It's a weird thing. Before we get out of here, how does this movie compare to all the other Mad Max films, do you think?
Kind of sitting here talking about it, watching it again. At the beginning, I said Fury Road's the best one. This one might be my favorite, though. Fury Road is great. It's absolutely fantastic film. But just for all the reasons we talked about, how economical this one is, and how it weaves in the emotion of it, this is a really finely made piece of work. And it's just about perfect.
I feel the opposite way. I think Fury Road's my favorite one. It's more rock and rolly, and it's more modern.
Fury Road's way more for a modern world.
Right. And this is the best, probably the best made film I've ever seen. Like, in terms of the economy of visual storytelling, I don't know. It's almost a silent movie. You know what I mean? Like,
it could work silently.
Yeah.
And that's, again, another thing George Miller talked about on Director's Chair. He's like, it should, on some level, if you turn all the sound off, and you can even take all the color out, on some level your movie should still work. It should still entertain. It's a visual medium. And this one, I think, totally would. Let's put some old-timey piano on it and just... Crash the tanker.
Normally we say... Do you like this movie? Does it work? Clearly, we do.
Yep.
I would say this movie is just visual poetry, and it's something that I'm going to buy and study. You know what I mean? Like,
this movie is
how do you do it?
It's worth the study that like Citizen Kane and Lawrence of Arabia get.
Yes,
it's that level of craftsmanship and visual storytelling and acting, and writing and editing, this is everything. Every level of it is feeding into something and is worth looking at because this is the right way to do it.
Right.
Or this is a way to do it, and this is one of the best ways to do it.
Right. Any sequel pitch or fan theories? My fan theory again is that there are 2 Mad Maxes.
Oh, interesting.
Because and I know Miller says he's like, well, it's about the myth, so I know I wanted to do different things. And I'm like, I don't know if I believe that. You know what I mean? I just don't know if that fully tracks.
Yeah, I got no problem with it.
I got no issue. I mean, my only issue with it is that it's just like you don't need to have it be inconsistent. You know what I mean?
True, but I think it's a big enough world that you can get away with it. Is the thing.
True.
And yeah, it's an indeterminate amount of time. It's you can easily walk away with that and make it easy, or make it cohesive without, because each movie's kind of stands on its own. It's its own story, and they don't really feed into each other. But it's the same myth and the same similar themes and similar ideas.
Well, I'd say the only one that really feeds another one is one feeds into 2 because the things that happen in 1 influence, like, so he gets shot in the knee in 1, so he has a knee brace in 2, and then he has his arm gets run over in 1, so he has half a sleeve in 2, but that's it though.
Yeah, it's just minor stuff like that.
Yeah,
you don't need to see Mad Max 1 to see Road Warrior.
No.
And you don't need to see any of them to see Fury Road. And still enjoy it.
And we just won't talk about Thunderdome.
And you don't need to see Thunderdome ever.
Any other sequel pitches? I can't. My mind can't comprehend this movie enough to sequel pitch.
George Miller's probably got the best ideas.
Yeah, we'll leave it to the master.
Let you do it, buddy.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say?
Summer of '82 was a good year. It turned out Conan and Mad Max. We've got a few others coming up.
Poltergeist coming up. Tron. I just don't know. I just don't know.
It was amazing that all of these came out in just 1 year. And we're covering like a quarter of them.
Yeah.
Blade Runner came out in summer of '82. RoboCop. It's just a crazy influential year.
Insanity. Conan and this movie, again, 2 movies from me that are just like, they're just pure filmmaking, and they'll probably never get the credit they deserve.
Yeah, I feel like, it's Conan will always be thought of as just, it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, whatever. This will be thought of as like, it's a Mad Max movie before Fury Road, which everybody seemed to embrace, which I'm fine with.
Yes.
But like, they deserve to be in kind of an upper echelon of talking.
Yes.
They're not just summer entertainment. They are exquisitely constructed films. This one, I think, a little more so than Conan, but Conan's doing different things than Road Warrior. So, it's good stuff.
I
love it.
Could not agree with you more. This episode, written by Kevin.
Me.
Music by Jeff Russell. Hosted by Mr. Jibber Jabber and Kevin again. For me and for Kev, we'll see you on the Wasteland.